Bonsoir, goedenavond en welkom in Cinematek. Bonsoir, bienvenue à Cinematek pour cette séance spéciale de Commitments, donc en collaboration avec le Festival du Film de Brussel. Dus welkom voor deze speciale vertoning van de Commitments in samenwerking met het Festival van Brussel. Het is natuurlijk onze grote eer vanavond om Sir Alan Parker, de regisseur van de film, onder ons te hebben. Donc c'est notre grand plaisir d'avoir parmi nous ce soir Sir Alan Parker, réalisateur de film. Et il y aura donc une conversation avec lui et Louis d'Anvers, maintenant juste avant le film. Donc er is een klein gesprek tussen hem en Louis d'Anvers, een half uurtje of zo, als inleiding van deze film.
My first question, Sir Alan, would be, was this film as enjoyable to do as it might seem seen from an audience point of view?
Yeah, of all my films, I've always said it's the one that I enjoyed making the most. You know, some films you wake up and you think, oh God, I've got to work with Madonna. But with this film, I would wake up in the morning and think it would be really great to go to work, you know. So it had a lot of love. It has no movie stars in it. And there was no, you know, limousines and big fancy trailers. So in a way it was done in Dublin, which is a very wonderful place to make a film. And so yes, it's certainly the happiest film I ever made.
How did this project come about? Because I mean, in your filmography, it's a film like a sort of homecoming, even if you're from London and not from Dublin.
Yeah.
You were working in the States for a while, and then boom, this new film coming from there. How did it come about in the first place?
The two screenwriters, Dick Clement and Ian Lafrene, very well-known British screenwriters who live in Los Angeles actually, and are good friends of mine. And so we had lunch, and they said they had been given this little novella by Roddy Doyle to do a screenplay from it, and I read it, and it was one of those. It was only a tiny little thing, you know, the book. But it was very well written, and I was laughing out loud. You know, when you read something and you're laughing, people think you're mad. But I just thought I was in the middle of making another film actually, so I wasn't that. You know, I just said, well, you to Dick and Ian, you do the screenplay, and then we'll see. And I really then when I went to Dublin, and then we did the casting. The casting was, you know, where we did most of the work really, casting the kids, and it's just a very enjoyable enterprise.
Would you say, I mean, you were directing, you know, people with less experience, and you worked with a lot of big movie stars. Would you say that it's different, or is it basically the same kind of work? I mean, whatever is the reputation or the experience of the people in front of the camera?
Well, it's good and bad, and it's good in that you have no egos and no histrionics, as you might get with a movie star. The thing about, you know, if someone becomes a movie star, they're generally because they're quite good at what they do. And it's rewarding to take young kids like this who had never done anything before and to make them into actors. And certainly, you know, some of them, you know, never thought of, although there are principally of the 12 of them, 11 are musicians. So to take a musician and make them into actors, and we had rehearsals. We would have drama rehearsals in the morning, and we'd have music rehearsals in the afternoon. And in a way, that's a luxury that you don't normally have on a film. So in a way, we rehearsed it just like a play, so that we could do the whole thing all the way through. And it helped a lot of the young, particularly the boys were nowhere near as good as the girls because they were better actors. And so I used to give the boys' parts to the girls in rehearsal, so the boys could hear their part played differently and better than they were doing it. And in a way, you know, so they could listen to the way in which people spoke.
Of course, there is music. I say of course because in a lot of your movies, I mean, your interest for music is really clear. So could you talk a little about the importance of music. You once told me also that you're writing to music when you
Yeah.
are writing scripts.
Well, just for atmosphere, yes. It's often not the music. I mean, if I was writing, for instance, when I was writing Evita, I had to write with the Evita music, and it's a good test, really, because, for a period of time, I was also going to make Les Miserables, but I got so sick of the music that I couldn't do it. Whereas other things, you keep playing it. The Commitments is different in that, the music already is old soul music. It has existed. The job for me was to, I'd chosen about, I don't know, maybe 100 songs. And then we had to narrow it down to the songs we use, and the ones we use up there. So it was about choosing songs. In the end, you choose what you like, But I find writing to music, very, very therapeutic.
And having music as an important part, of the story of the film, because it's clear in your filmography that there is something.
Well, it depends on the films, on Pink Floyd The Wall, that was a hugely successful album, even before I was ever involved. So making a film on music that already existed is actually quite difficult. And then, I've done Vita, which is an opera, Bugsy Malone, which is like classic old-fashioned Hollywood musical. And then, other times I've used music. Music's come in very late, I haven't chosen the music until the very, very end, on Mississippi Burning and Midnight Express. Each one is different, is a thing.
What about the comparison you could make, like instantly, coming back from Hollywood and from bigger, shoots to a European, Irish co-production, Irish-English co-production? Did you find it was different from a few years before when you left for Hollywood, or basically did you find the same kind of things that you experienced beforehand?
No difference really. I mean, it was predominantly, the key personnel were British, and then the rest of the crew were Irish. Obviously, all the cast was Irish. There wasn't any big difference. The biggest difference, strangely enough, was when I made The Commitments, and then some years later I went back to Dublin and I made Angela's Ashes. Mm-hmm. Then I saw the big difference, because when I made The Commitments, Ireland wasn't doing so well, but when I made Angela's Ashes, it was a very affluent place. Now it's back to being as it was. But that was a big difference, a big surprise.
What about the general comparison between the ways of the American film industry and let's say British or European one?
Mm. Well, I think I can't say European, because I really haven't made European films as such. I've made films in the United States, and I've made them in the United Kingdom and Ireland, but it's the same in Ireland as it is in the United Kingdom. The crews are pretty similar, really. I mean, it's amazing. Ken Russell once said, there's no difference at all. They spill the coffee on your script. He said, whether they're Americans or English. So it's, the job functions are different. I think I might, if I made a film in Europe, I might see a big difference. I don't know. But the truth is, in the United Kingdom, we make many American films. So the way in which they're made is very, very similar.
What about working with Roddy Doyle?
Well, we didn't really. I mean, he'd written the screenplay from his novella, and then, as I say, but they couldn't raise the money for it, so they gave it to Dick Clement and Ian Lafrene, and then they wrote the screenplay that raised the money, and then I came on board, and I worked with Dick and Ian on the screenplay. And Roddy really kept at a distance, maybe too much of a distance, because I think he wasn't very happy with, he wasn't really involved, is the truth. So they are now The Commitments is now on stage in London, theatre version, and so he got his own back by not involved. We're not involved.
This idea of white people playing black music is quite a great one, with maybe social backgrounds that can, you know, sort of link it. Could you elaborate a little about that? It's one of the key elements of it.
Yeah, I think that it's very relevant. But I think it's one of the key elements of the movie, which is why maybe they should watch the movie. Yeah. Better than me discuss it.
Yeah. The film got, I think, 4 awards in UK, including Best Movies. I mean, you experienced a lot of awards success also, like 10 Golden Globes, not with this movie, but with all your films, 10 Oscars, whatever. What is the meaning of those? I mean, getting awarded, what kind of recognition is it, and what does it mean, I mean, artistically?
It's important for one's ego. And the amazing thing about awards is that if you win an award, you just take it for granted. Because you go, yeah, quite right, I should have won. The only time is, and when you don't win it is the thing. When you get so angry. But the winning of it is not, you know, I just, yeah, it's very flattering, obviously. Because, you know, films are hard to make. And it's nice if someone else likes it, really.
You told me once an anecdote about Roger Waters of Pink Floyd telling you that you were sort of anxious about not having, not to bore the audience for like more than 4 or 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, in this film, it's a film where the audience live the experience together with the people. I mean, what do you need, I mean, as an eye or whatever, to sort of be your first audience and know about those things?
Yeah, I mean, in the end, the director is, you ought to have the film in some strange DVD recorder in the back of your head before you even begin. And then you make the film and you hope that what's happening in front of you is close to that image that you've already got. Or you can hear a line, you know, and you heard a line delivered and it's a really funny line when you hear it in your head. And then when they deliver it, it's not very funny. Or the opposite happens, it's better than you imagined it, you know. So I think the thing is, yeah, you are the first audience. And then bear in mind, you know, you make a film 3 times in that you make it when you write it, and it's a screenplay. And then you make it when you shoot it, and then you make it when you edit it. So it's 3 different lives. And in that process, which is very organic, the film can change. And so at each time, it's me as the director, or the director, whoever is involved, but the director is the person who is saying, you know, although it's organic, we have to still be truthful to what we originally wanted to do. Is it better? Well, then yes, it is, so we'll go that way. And then, you know, the truth is, though, you know, when you're editing it, you see it over and over and over again, and you can have screenings, however many screenings you want, but with the crew, you know, the editors and that, as we do. But the truth is, it's a really interesting thing, and I find that however many times we've seen it with the editors, the very first time that you really see it is when you experience it with an audience. So if I sit at the back when an audience sees it for the first time, I see it for the first time, because you're so sensitive to what things you think were funny are not very funny, or things are funny or they get a big laugh and you go, I didn't think that was very funny. and so, but you suddenly realise what you've done, because a film does not exist in a can. And it doesn't exist even just for us. It only exists when everybody experiences it and enjoys it, hopefully.
What are your views about the previewing system, you know, audience test screenings? I mean, because 25 years ago it was basically Hollywood doing that. Nowadays, even in France,
really?
they do test previews a lot.
The French,
the French go to it. Yeah. Believe me.
I didn't think they took notice of anybody. Yeah.
They do. So I mean, did you use that sort of process? And I mean,
I've had to do it in America. It's not nice to do, you know. It's I sat in once to listen to everybody afterwards, you know, telling the research people what a crappy film it was. It's not a very nice experience. So when they do it now, I always go and listen, and you can feel the audience's reaction. I think that's important. and then I usually go to a bar and get drunk.
So, do we have questions in the audience? I'm pretty sure someone has a question, because we have time for a few questions coming from you. Please.
Sir Alan, after the editing process, do you ever feel like there were pieces that you cut out that you wished had stayed in the movie, or vice versa?
No, I've never been forced to take things out. Sometimes, I remember on Midnight Express, I had a scene where the boy is running away and he runs through a market, and there's a whole lot of chickens hanging up, and now I did the shot of this guy there who was snapping the heads off of the chickens. That was what he was doing in real life. This was it was a butcher's thing, you know, and so, which is a pretty horrible thing, but I don't know why I did it. It was like some kind of metaphor I was trying to, you know, seeking out, you know, and although it sounds horrendous, you know, and then for some reason we cast somebody else, not the butcher guy. So then this guy he was trying to take the head off the chicken, and the neck just got longer and longer and longer. And I thought it was quite funny, really, and so I put that in, and the studio made me take it out. They thought it was actually disgusting, which it was disgusting. But no, I think that when something doesn't work, you're the first to see it, really. You get rid of it, throw it away. You know, the great tragedy is when you've worked a lot of hours and time in getting something and it doesn't work. It always amazes me. You know, I do it at the same time, every single film. You know, you write the screenplay, you know it's a little bit long, and you know that you're going to have to lose something. And sometimes you do. On Angela's Ashes, the first cut was, I don't know, 2 hours, 40 minutes, and we cut it down to 2 hours, 10. So you know you're going to get rid of a lot of good things. Because first of all, obviously, you get rid of the things that don't really work. And but you're getting rid of really good things, and you think, well, you should have made the decision much earlier when you wrote it, you know, and then not put yourself all through all that pain of shooting it and then having to get rid of it. But you know, people do, you know, this whole notion of the director's cut, which always makes me laugh. Ridley Scott, he and I have started together. He's done, I think it's 5 versions, 5 director's cuts of Blade Runner. So you think, really, make your mind up, you know, which director's cut is it, you know? But of course, every time he recuts it and says the new director's cut, then he sells even more DVDs.
The next question, please.
When you started directing, did you, because you said earlier that after a couple of years of experience, you adapted yourself constantly to the set and to the actors and to everything that was going on during the shooting, but when you began, did you prepare everything, how you were going to shoot what was supposed to be shot, and did you, yeah.
I think when you make your first film, yeah, you do over-prepare, and that's probably right. You really should know what it is, and you think more about it because you're a little insecure, quite frankly. And so that you overdo it with regards to storyboards or shots and things. And also there's an over-concern when it's your first film. It's an over-concern about the technical side of things. And the truth is you get so much help. And it always amazed me that, you know, you walk on a film set and there's all these people there, and they all think that because it's your first film, you think they're going to go, what an, you know, complete idiot we have here as a director, you know. And it's the opposite. They're all there to help you. They all want you to make a good film. And so with all that help, the film will get done anyway. Actually, most films could be made without a director. They wouldn't be very good, but they can be, you know, technically it's possible. And so I think the thing is not to worry too much about it, is that, you know, I don't over-prepare. I mean, I prepare quite thoroughly, but with regards to shots and things, I can do it in my head now. Whereas I couldn't when I began in early days, I had to write down all the shots. But you know, eventually you become more secure and you don't need to do that.
Are you going to shoot another movie?
No.
Why not?
Well, I prefer to go to the pub. it's really hard making films, you know. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but I enjoy not making them. And my wife has a theory. She says that, you know, in the recent years when I've nearly made a film, I've written it and prepared it, and then I always tend to have a fight, an argument with someone before I start shooting. But the person I usually have the argument with is the person who's giving me the money, which is a very bad person to argue with. And so she says, "Oh, you're just finding excuses not to film." And in a way, I suppose I am. You know, I tell you, to answer you more seriously, it's, you know, it's a physically really difficult job. You know, and in America, for instance, you do a 12-hour shooting day, which is you shoot from 8 in the morning to 8 in the evening, and then after that, if you're the director, you always have something else that you have to do preparing the next day. So it's a long day. It's a 6-day working week. And on the day off, the director is always the one who has to go and look at a new location. So you hardly get any time off, even on your day off. And that's, on average, that's for 3 solid months. You know, we have a trades union, but they don't seem to work. Because very few people have to work that hard. You know, on the other hand, you think, well, we're very well paid for what we do. And that's the reason I suppose we put up with it. But and the other crucial thing is that you're always, you know, if you do the kind of films that I've done, you're always away from home, you know, and you're living in some, you know, Holiday Inn somewhere, and it's not very pleasurable, really. So I prefer to go to the pub. Yeah.
Monsieur?
Yes, 2 questions. What was your training before you came in the film industry? And who are your favorite movie directors?
So what did I do before I came into film?
Yeah.
Well, I was a writer in advertising, and then I directed television commercials, publicity films, for a while, and then I went into film. But I started as a writer, really. That's how I began. And what was the other part of the question? Who do I like?
Who are your favorite film directors?
Oh, favourite film directors. Oh God, how difficult that is. You know. Not Quentin Tarantino.
Oh, I love
Thank
it.
you.
Really? Oh God.
No, the classic film.
Oh, of the classic. Well, I like, you know, British directors. I like Carol Reed, David Lean. I mean, all that sort of thing. The British director I admired the most, who's still making films, is Ken Loach, because I think that he has such incredible integrity in his work, and so I think he's pretty amazing. I love Miloš Forman, for instance. I've always loved Miloš's work. Pardon? You like him too? Gosh, oh, so your taste is not all bad then.
But I want to say you must try to do another film.
Really?
Because the painter Laticien, I have seen a large exhibition of his works in Paris, and the best works are 92 years.
Yeah. Which painter?
Laticien.
Oh, maybe you can set the
I
story.
think there
in
are
the
exceptions. The truth is, though, if
No.
historically, that isn't, you know, artists, there are exceptions, but mostly artists do not get better as they get older. They get worse. Anyway.
Oliveira is an exception.
Pardon?
Manuel de Oliveira is an exception.
Yeah. I said there are exceptions, but mostly they don't. Mostly they get to 85 and then they have a heart attack and fall off the camera.
Hello, do you like Terry Gilliam and Monty Python?
I do, very much.
Is it a good taste, this? Or?
Very good. Terry Gilliam, very good. Yeah, he's very good too. Yeah. Could go through the list.
There was another question coming from somewhere. Yeah.
How is it the experience and the feeling as an artist to know that your film is being watched or will be watched by someone, the audience? How do you experience? How do you feel it?
Well, I think you can never ignore the audience. I mean, you know, they will say, the French will say, don't worry about the audience because you make it for yourself. Well, you do have to make it for yourself. It is your vision. But you have to be conscious that it's going to be seen one day by people. So you have to, that's what I was saying in my answer earlier, you know, only when you really experience it with an audience do you really see what you've done. It's a strange sensation. But of course you were making it in isolation. It's not theatre, we're making it without an audience. You know, every day, every shot is done with just us. Every decision I have to make only thinking what an audience might think of it. But in the end, you know, it's your vision. But you know, European cinema in the most ignores the audience, and that's to its peril, really. American cinema is the cinema of the audience. They care a lot about the audience. Perhaps that's why it's the only cinema that's survived. But it's something you have to be conscious of.
Well, if we have time for only one more question, I would like to ask a question, well, not about film, but about football.
Good, I'm
so
better at
rather than being a very great connoisseur of football and a big Arsenal fan. So, what do you foresee coming out of the next World Cup?
With this audience, it's an easy answer, yeah. It won't be England, but it could be Belgium, yeah. I do. I have a £100 bet on it. I told someone earlier to put some money on. I think Belgium has a very good chance. I do, yeah. Yeah. You think not? Well, you know, you have no idea about anything, do you?
Well, thank you very much, Sarah,
Thank you.
and thank you to you for your questions. Enjoy the stream.
Did you try Belgian beer?
Huh?
Did you try the Belgian beer?
The Belgian beer?
It went hot.
Yes, I do. That's also very good. I had a question about my favourite Belgian filmmakers. I said, I could name the Belgian football team.